This week on RSBANDB Update, the World Cup of Quest continues and the decisions get harder. Plus, breaking news on the community front, RuneScape has a new lead community manager. And then another look at the RuneScape Mobile interfaces, and we go to space yet again. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 780, recorded Thursday, June 4th, 2020. Nothing to see here. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Tanis and myself are here, as we are each and every week. And, you know, this is a bit of a quiet one, isn't it?
Are crickets quiet? Is the sound of grass growing quiet? Or here, how about one for where I'm from, watching the corn grow? Does that take a while? Those are some of the things that come to mind.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty good in terms of I've never actually heard that one. I've heard of people programming wheat and whatnot, but I mean, nonetheless, I mean, corn works, I guess. But as you can tell, this week's is a patch note week and a very limited patch note week in that. But we do have listener questions. We do have a little bit of news that hasn't been broken yet by Jagex, and we're gonna kind of get ahead of that, and we'll have to see how this exactly goes when they make an official announcement on this. But we do have some news that many people probably haven't quite heard of yet. And we're going to actually be going back to RS Mobile to have a look at the user interfaces there and, you know, kind of just do a bit of a walkthrough of how the interfaces work. Because and I'm getting ahead of myself here, one of the biggest things for me with RS Mobile, and I don't know if you felt the same, is that it is so abundantly clear on RS Mobile that RuneScape is still a game designed for desktop first. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And we'll go through some of those things in particular with the UI that make it feel that way and talk about if we can actually move past that. But nonetheless, that's getting ahead of ourselves. We do have patch notes to go through. I'm Shane12088, and he is Tanis79 if you want to chat with us in game. And, of course, we do have full show notes available at update.rsbnb.com if you want to follow along with those and see what exactly we are indeed talking about. So you ready to start for some patch notes this week?
Yeah, let's get through the patches. Jump right in.
And this was a very old school patch week because the patch notes were actually able to fit all inside the main news post. So starting off with just general improvements, players are now able to start filling a singular urn while their inventory is full. And, you know, this is something that's always existed ever since the urns came out way back when, is that you used to have to have at least one inventory spot in order to actually be able to fill these urns. So now you can have 27 slots filled with something else and continue to fill that urn and not get the messaging for it. Also added in an item charge tooltip on the bank stander invention item. I never used this one, the bank stander. Did you?
Nope, never used it.
Yeah, and you know, this is back when they were trying to make invention move beyond batch 1 into batch 2, and, you know, just provide all the extra devices that people wanted with this. And the whole idea behind the bank standards that it gets charges when you're one space away from a bank and you have this in your inventory and you're not moving. And what effectively happens with it after about 3 minutes or so, it will charge up to 100%, where it will explode, giving you some random invention parts. And, you know, that's probably why people don't want it, is because, I mean, you're investing invention materials to make something that explodes into more materials that you could probably get another way. They're common materials. 25 sets of 25 common parts and 4 sets of 1 uncommon component. So just common and uncommon, and that's probably why people don't use it that much.
You do probably better with just scavenging. Scavenging.
Yeah. The passive effects of the Hex Hunter Bow, the Pterosaur Maul, and the Inquisitor's Staff will now behave as expected when fighting the Calphite King. Added quick chat options to Marks of War, which is the currency you get whenever you're bossing. Came out with the PVM hub earlier in January. You can now open the bank chest at the Lumbridge Market from any direction. Okay, good to know that was limited before.
Okay.
Clan events can no longer be scheduled in the past.
Oh.
I
can see that being
I mean, it wouldn't do anything. It would just put these events and they would never pop off that it's time to go to an event.
Dude, I don't know. You've been around long enough now that you've probably known people like I have that you never know. In clan politics, you never know. Someone will be like, Retro put a event in there and be like, no one came to this event, or you guys didn't come to this event. No, man, that's
that's actually a good idea thinking of it. That's actually a good idea thinking of it.
I put nothing past.
Yeah. Also on clans, players can now surge and escape in the clan citadel, which you weren't able to do before. The Gobi that initiates the Beastmaster Durzag raid will now correctly walk to and alert their companions of their imminent rescue, or more likely death. Fire-making XP is now added to the Pyromatic when creating incense sticks.
Oh, cool. Good.
Yeah. Because
I mean, it's token, but it's
token XP, but it's the idea behind it.
Yes,
and I go back to when I was doing the last Yak track. I noticed that even if you're doing the bonfire and you have your crystal tinderbox equipped, you will still get the item XP on that. Which, I mean, anytime you're getting fire making XP, you should be getting item XP for either of these. So the Pyromatic.
Yeah.
The Animica rock opportunities will now appear on Anachronia. They weren't appearing before.
Ew.
You'll now be noticed when you receive a totem piece from Slayer on Anachronia. You didn't before that, so that's good to know.
Yeah, that's good.
You can now withdraw multiple unstackable items from your bank via the Worn Equipment tab. And, this is something that came with the bank rework, is that when you have the Worn Equipment tab active, it will default try and equip it on your character. But previously, if you, for example, tried to bring out, say, Toadflax, when you had that Worn Equipment tab, it would give you an error. Now it will actually allow you to withdraw these unstackable items onto your character. The first stage of a planted papaya tree now has a more reasonable click box. I mean, I don't know why you'd even need to click a first stage of it, but I guess that's a good update. Because if you're attempting to cure it of disease, you just use your shears. And I think you click on the patch for that, not the actual plant. I could be wrong, though.
I don't know. Easier clicking, yeah.
Yeah. I am the farming person, so I should have an idea on that. Melee ranged and magic training dummies can no longer be placed in elite dungeons except within close range of a bank chest. I wonder what this one is about in particular. Could this have been an adrenaline stalling thing, perhaps, maybe?
That's kind of what I was wondering the same thing.
Because otherwise they would have had to use the invention dummies. Or now, build up and do it at the PVM hub, teleport in, and away you go with an adrenaline crystal. And I don't know if I'm imagining it, but I think there's an archaeology relic too that gives you makes it so your adrenaline doesn't kick down. Am I imagining that, or is that an actual thing?
No, I think there's one, but I don't remember what the actual recipe was like in the math.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll leave that as it is. Fixed an issue where the regenerate ability could become queued even when the player had 0 adrenaline, causing it to remain in the queue indefinitely. And, if that's the case, then you just got to hop over and activate a new ability to clear that, but kind of annoying for somebody who isn't exactly knowing what's going on. And the one I was thinking of was called Persistent Rage. Your adrenaline will not drain outside of combat.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that is one of them. Level 98 Archeology, that unlocks that. Now, I've also fixed a hole that was present in Ariane's robe legs during some animations, and fixed an issue that was causing Jessica to stretch during a cutscene in The Void Stares Back. And
Jessica.
And this is something that, should draw people's attention, because one thing that they have said, and I think it was Mud Mike who said this on one of the live streams, is that they want to make it so that, there's parity between the male and female models, not only for players, but also for NPCs, because, the emphasis has always been on the male model in game. So putting this focus on the female model is indeed good, because, it's a 50-50 choice which one people are going to want to choose in game.
Yeah.
Fixed a presentation issue on 4:3 aspect ratio mobile devices, which caused ribbon windows to be inconsistently sized. Also fixed an issue where the world map lodestone teleports were not functioning when selected. And, it's something many people don't know, is that if you open up the world map and you make your way to a lodestone, you can click on that lodestone in the world map and it will teleport you directly there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. Then we got some little hot fixes along the way, such as the one from last week, the issue that they had that was preventing new clans from being created. That was an amusing one to see, because, we want to, foster this social aspect of the game, but you can't create a clan. So that was fixed nice and quickly.
We're gonna go start our own clan. Not last week you weren't.
Nope. Also resolved an issue which prevented the invite players to clan option from working when the potential recruit's privacy status was not set to online or friends only. And the invite option, which sends an invite to somebody anywhere on your world, still requires the recipient's privacy status to be set to online or friends. I didn't know that you didn't have to actually go and see the person to invite them.
I didn't either, because I've always
done it on the actual person.
Yeah, that's... yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And finally, Barrow's Rise of the Six instance owners are once again able to enter the instance that they have created. So there we have it. That's the patch notes for the week.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, there's something there, but, we also do have the World Cup of Quests, and we're going to provide a bit of an update on this. We went through what all the different brackets were going to be last week, but the first vote has already happened, and the second vote is currently underway as of recording this. So the first vote was for Ritual of the Majorat versus Plague's End. And this was close. Ritual of the Majorat came out ahead with 53.1% to Plague's End's 46.9%.
Yeah, that surprised me.
I know I was dithering last week on this, but I decided Plague's End.
Oh, okay. Well, that just threw out my little theory. So good. Way to go, Shane.
What, you thought I mobilized like all of Clan Quest to vote in this?
No. But I thought people that are really into Quest, I thought maybe they were the ones that were voted for Ritual of the Majorat, because it has so many lore implications, whereas Plague's End is the end of that storyline. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway.
I don't know. And I think when it comes down to it, Plague's End is the quest that I waited a decade plus for, so it was, kind of a no-brainer to vote for it.
Oh, it was kicking the door, man.
Exactly.
It's like, boom. From the first time you had to sneak in that, you just wanted to kick that door in anyway.
And then the RuneScape theme starts to play, and you're left at this area underneath underneath Prif as it is. You're left hanging at the end of the quest that came right before it of what was going to happen next, and it just took so long to get there. It's too bad Plague's End didn't win that one.
You know, it was like having a legit power fantasy in RS for a minute. You know, you're like,
yeah. And then the next one is The World Wakes versus Recipe for Disaster. Oh, I don't have the results up for that one. But which one would you pick, World Wakes or Recipe for Disaster?
I would hands down pick World Wakes. I would hope that it would be a landslide, but I don't know. There might be some people with some nostalgic feelings towards Recipe for Disaster.
And you know what I told you last week is that I would have to choose Recipe for Disaster because it was the 100th quest, and it was kind of one of those capstone quests. And that's what I chose. There's 1 day left on this vote. World Wakes is winning 68.7% to Recipe for Disaster's 31.3%.
Yeah.
So what this means is that the World Wakes will be going up against the Ritual of the Majorat.
Oh, but doesn't it mean something
Or
else?
sorry, no, that's a different bracket entirely. The first one was While Gothic Sleeps versus Desert Treasure, and I think While Gothic Sleeps won that one hands down.
Yeah, but I think you're missing the biggest point.
What's the biggest point?
That I'm correct.
That people were going to go for the World Wakes instead of Recipe for Disaster because it's more impactful, and it was only 7 years ago compared to probably 12 years ago at this point, I think, for Recipe for Disaster. Is that
the
it?
first part of that, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
And what else? I feel like I'm missing something.
Recipe for Disaster was a pain in the ass.
Really?
Yes. Like, you remember why you did it? I mean, you probably did it just to do it, but I did it because I wanted the best gloves that you could only get in the chest. But it was murder. Like, it was like, ugh. It was like a one small favor, you know? Like, you just kept having to do it. Now, the one they did in Varrock later, like where they redid it, that one was fun.
Okay.
I like that one.
So it'll be While Gothic Sleeps going up against Ritual of the Majorat in the first bracket.
Oh, yeah, that's Majorat all day long, I would think.
So,
for me. What do you think, Shane? Are you a Gothic
So the
Sleep?
next one. I would go for Ritual of the Majorat on that one. As for which way it will go for the community, I think probably the World Wakes.
Damn, we should have made brackets. This could have been our June madness.
Or sorry, While Gothic Sleeps or Ritual of the Majorat for that. Definitely Ritual of the Majorat on that. I keep getting those ones confused. You know, we should have made a bracket on this, right?
Yeah, that would have been fun.
And, I mean, it might not be too late because, I mean, we're only in the first phase still, right?
Well, that's true.
That would be a really quick thing to actually whip together. I might actually do that after the show here.
That'd be fun.
All right, let's move on. Let's progress the show a little bit quicker. I'm only kidding.
If we do that, we'll be out of show, Shane.
Yeah. All right. So that's where we're at for the World Cup quest. So it'll be While Gothic Sleeps versus Ritual of the Majorat. And then it's looking like it'll be the World Wakes versus either Fate of the Gods or One Small Favor. I really hope people pick Fate of the Gods for that one.
I hope so. I would think so. Dude, One Small Favor is a joke.
Yeah, it's the ultimate bottle quest.
It's a meme. Yeah, like, well, it's a meme. Like, I don't think anyone enjoys it.
Well, there's people I know that are clamoring for One Small Favor too.
Yeah, well, there's people that are wanting an Artisan's Workshop, 5? And
you mean Elemental Workshop 5?
Elemental. I said Artisans. Oh, jeez. Actually, what's the second rendition of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on World Cup of Quest? I think that pretty much covers it. I'm enjoying watching this.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. All right. You ready to break some news again?
Let's go for it, Shane.
Yeah, you remember what happened last time we broke news, right? That's when Jagex got sold.
Right. Well, yeah.
All right. Breaking news once again from RSBANDB Update. Jagex has a new lead community manager for RuneScape. And what's going to be happening with this is presently JD looks over the social media and community management side of it. And he's going to be effectively, after this new fellow comes in, just be looking after the social media side. While the new lead community manager for RS, we don't know what his mod name will be yet, is a guy by the name of Liam Ashley, who has a really impressive resume, yet again, just like most of the new hires that appear at Jagex. He has worked on AAA franchises, and, listeners are going to maybe have a bit of a mixed feeling about this. AAA franchises such as Call of Duty, Batman Arkham Knight, it was the game, and the Gears of War franchise. His titles that he was involved with at the Gears of War franchise include Gears Tactics, Gears of 5, Gears of War 4, Gears of War Ultimate Edition, and then we have Batman Arkham Knight, and then Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Ghosts, Black Ops 2, Elite, and Modern Warfare 3. And, he listed off his DLC, and, he was community manager in these roles here for this, and he's bounced around between, numerous of these big studios. He's had postings that were posted on the Xbox.com website for Gears of War, and this is another example, I think, of Jagex constantly going above and beyond and hiring from the AAA game title industry. I mean, first it was Mod Warden, and then there are a few others, or definitely a couple others for old school, and now we have this guy coming in for community management. And to be fair, we're not making any judgments about what he's going to do, because in large part I don't have much experience with any of these games in the past, so I don't exactly know how well the CM side of it went down, and we don't know what his mandate is going to be here at Jagex. But this is definitely going to be a big change for the community management side of things on this. And you kind of have to wonder, is this going to be, like we said, what we said last week, is that it seems as though that the future for RS is expansions by any other name. So is this going to be the spearhead? Is the community management team going to spearhead the effort, led by Liam Ashley, and Mod Porky's also on the team? We'll start using his mod name once we get him introduced to the community and whatnot. But you have to wonder if they're going to be spearheading this effort to talk to the community and move them along from, for all these years, what has been a week-to-week update cycle, which is now seeming like it's going to be a bi-monthly or quarterly update cycle with headlining updates. And, that's kind of what we alluded to last week, and I'm wondering if this is what the new role for CM is going to be.
Well, that's going to be a tough job, considering we did just say that last week, and then this week. Ta-da. I thought about that when we were going through the chat shows. I'm like, oh, man, we just said it was going to be different.
Yeah.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Well, I'm really curious to see what's going on here. I look at this as it might be an opportunity to drive community sentiment rather than react to it. And that, that's going to be important going forward, and we'll see. I mean,
we'll have to see. And
like I think it's cool that I mean, I think Mod Warden's worked out really well. We'll see how this guy does. As long as they don't bring an MTX guy from EA, I think we'll be okay. But
right,
I'll probably throw a fit if that were to happen.
Yeah, and I mean,
no.
No.
The
Call of Duty games are always known for their DLC of new maps and whatnot. I don't know how Call of Duty games work in the past, and I mean, I had no idea that you even had community managers for games like Call of Duty and whatnot. So,
see, I think Call of Duty. I think like 13-year-old boy screaming obscenities.
Yeah,
at a 30-year-old boy. I don't
Which
know.
Is Xbox Live in a nutshell of
right.
10 years ago or so.
Right. Although I did see an hilarious, like this new Call of Duty, there was someone that was impersonating like a drill sergeant from from Full Metal Jacket. Oh my god, it was great. He was calling them numb nuts and just it was so good.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And this will be his first MMO because previously he's only been involved in shooter and strategy titles.
Yeah, I wonder community-wise how different
I don't know.
that is. Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
And one thing that I do say, for at least from the Gears of War side and the Call of Duty side, is that the RuneScape community is a lot more vocal compared to any of these ones.
Well,
and it's a lot more active.
I mean, you say vocal. I was going to say, I think we're
tamer,
more passionate. I mean, we might be tamer as in, like, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I mean, we don't have voice like the voice chat people can record us like
right.
that. But no, I mean, I think RuneScape in particular, I think people are very passionate about their views in this game. Like, I think they're very passionate in their point of view.
And one thing that I think we really benefited as, and I could see this, and I'm sure you could as well. And this goes back to when JD first started hosting live streams, and things were kind of dicey in the tail end of last year. Remember we called it the JD press conference, and it was very clear at that point that JD's direction was trying to move from that reactive stance to kind of a guiding stance, right? And I hope that continues, is that it's not a reactive style of community management. It's more kind of guiding, press secretary-like, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think what's happening, and if all goes according to plan, there needs to be outlets. Like, you need the proper outlets, the proper like pressure valves, so that the community is being heard and recognized and listened to.
Yeah.
While being led, where the company is obviously going, and that's probably the smartest thing they could possibly do.
And underscore the big one from 2017 too, managing expectations.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're managing expectations, but like, maybe some of these like player advocacy group things was a idea of a pressure release kind of thing, trying to get people like we're giving you something, we're listening. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
rather than just blunt force, we're doing this. That's it. This way, I don't know. It's a little bit slyer. We're going in the same direction though, regardless.
Yeah, and one thing I want to really underscore to the listeners here is to not, make any rash judgments on this, and ensure that everything that you guys say or do on this is going to be taken into account once this guy gets introduced. Because remember, this is new news as of this week, and they haven't even introduced him with a mod name yet. So we're likely, a week or two out before this news makes it out through official channels and whatnot. So
Yeah,
let's just keep that in mind.
I'm sure we'll probably be hearing something. I mean, they're on a, I don't know, probably like a stream or something, wouldn't you think? Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I would imagine so. All right, so welcome aboard to. I wish he had a mod name.
Yes.
I will just call him.
Welcome, welcome, and good luck. And
it's a fun community to be around.
Yes,
which I'm sure he knows. I mean, from making the decision to work at Jagex. But
it'll definitely have its challenging days, but I imagine it's really rewarding too.
Yes. Alrighty, so we did mention that we also want to talk a bit about RS Mobile again, because this is something that we've been on and off about, and it's something that is really important to do, because this is a product that has been out on the Android side for a while now, and we've just recently got our hands on it on iOS, and we kind of wanted to just do a bit of a run through of the user interface side of things here on RS Mobile and talk a little bit about some of the issues that have come up and how things can be made better. And, I think I just want to start this off and ask you, have you had any major issues with mobile in terms of the UI that you'd like to sound off with here?
No, honestly, it's been easier to use than I thought it would be. No, I don't do like a lot to do at the bank and stuff, just because of the way that I have to magnify different parts of the screen to really look at it and stuff like that. So it's just easier for me to not do that. But in general, like, I think this is important, because like in general, this has kind of spoiled me, and I want all of my games on my phone now.
Oh, really?
Because this is the first time I've been able to play a game on my phone. So it's not that like I can see it great or anything. Like, it's going to be so much better when I get it on a tablet. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to be a whole different story. But the mere fact that it's good enough that I can do it, that's awesome. Like, I want everything like that. Like, I was going to play Civ the other day. I'm like, yeah, or I could just sit here in the recliner and play RS.
Yeah.
Guess what I did?
You played RS.
You know it.
All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is the home screen, and this came out last September in what they called the September Mobile Update, and that's the button that you get to by pressing the big home button in the top, and there's no analog to this on the desktop UI. Now, this is how we access all of the main hero menus, like Powers, Hero, Adventures. It's how you access the cosmetics, amongst other things. It's also how you access the microtransactions and the settings, and pretty much everything that isn't the game world can be accessed from this home screen. And I just want to go out there and say that this home screen in itself, which is a mobile-first design, is perfect. And this is what people on the video version are seeing right now, and I'm going to do my best to try and explain everything through it here. Now, I'm going to just jump through some of these hero menus. I'm going to start with Powers. And the first concern that I had with this, and you'll recall I discovered this on the show last time we were on here, is that if you're in the Abilities menu and you're not entirely sure the way it's set up, there's two drop-downs there. One drop-down controls the action bar that you'll get on your main screen when you activate the combat mode, and that's the drop-down on the left, while the drop-down on the right controls your revolution bar, which is slightly confusing because you have to look very closely to see that that drop-down is actually connected to that. And this is a piece of feedback that I have sent in to Jagex through the in-game suggestion feature that, hey, let's, see what we can do here about whether or not maybe, this could be made more clear that you're editing your revolution action bar with this drop-down. Then, they actually added a nice and simple button to turn on Revolution, which wasn't there a few weeks ago, so that's nice. But I want to go back to that home screen and go through another of the hero menus as it is, and it so happens to be the actual hero menu in itself. And, most of these UIs have been updated in part. Like, for example, we went through the skill guide when we were on the show last time. You asked me to look up something on the divination skill guide, and I did that. So some of them are okay, some of them are not. And you can really tell which ones are okay and which ones are not by how they feel in terms of, can your fingers touch the right appropriate items? Like, for example, the quest list is good because if you look at the quest list, the spacing for the quest list is actually spaced together as you would expect it, and it's not as though you need to, just use the tiny, tiny tip of your finger in order to get access to it. So that's good.
Speaking of that, Shane, I didn't realize we could talk about. I didn't realize that's kind of like a UI thing, like using this tiny part of your finger to try to get something.
Yeah.
Remember the first time when you were talking about closing out of menus and hitting that X?
Yeah.
You were right. That's been the worst. And the worst part is, how you got your treasure hunter is pops up and it's in the middle on the left-hand side.
Yeah, and there's a tiny, tiny little button to be able to close that.
Yeah, every time you try to close it, it just opens it, and then you can't close that thing. Yes, that kind of sucks.
Yeah. Now, other UIs that actually seem to be produced very well for this, and, this isn't going to be about all what's bad, is the friends chat and friends list. Those ones actually seem to be okay, believe it or not. But on the other hand, if you go to the clan view, and I'm not entirely sure what's causing it, there is an inconsistency between those two. And this is the one thing that I really wanted to highlight with this, is that there's UIs that work, and, that's good. But then there's also other UIs that only somewhat work, and that's not so good. And basically what I'm getting at is that there's inconsistency in the way this is laid out. So one thing that I would like to draw everybody's attention to is that same thing where if you go back between your inventory, your chat list, and, say, your friends list, you have 3 different fonts at play. And, you have to ask, why is that? So that's something else that can be looked at, is the fonts. And I realize what a touchy subject fonts are because, we don't have font scaling in game. And it would just be so much simpler if everything was rendered as a true type font on screen and able to be changed. And what that effectively means, a true type font is a font that can increase in size, and you can, increase various or change various aspects of it, like the kerning and whatnot. And the classic example of this is looking at, say, a friends chat, the chat list, and then at the very bottom of the action bars, you have 3 different fonts at play on your screen. So that's the second area, would be fonts. Now, what I want to do after that, and, you got to actually give them credit in that most of the hero menus, like powers and adventures and hero, those are actually pretty well done for mobile, believe it or not. They're fairly well optimized. So that's good. That's actually very positive. And the only real major downfall with all these menus like you mentioned is that it's hard to click that little red X up in the corner. And it's because it's so tiny, which, for anybody who has big thumbs, that's going to be a bit of a problem. Now, I want to talk about the ribbon. Were you able to ever get your ribbon customized at all in-game?
I just kind of learned where it was. Because the only thing I was using was I'd pull the map out and put it back, and the lodestone thing and put it back in my inventory.
All right.
But the stats, I didn't really interact with because it's a little too small.
Yeah, because you're not necessarily out there to check XP and whatnot.
Right.
So the ribbon is able to be customized on there. And, this is something we mentioned that I didn't get onboarding for, and I just found it. So if you're back in that home screen and you click the little button at the top right with the 3 bars on it, and then you go to ribbon, you're going to be able to customize the ribbon there just like you can on the desktop. And that's good, except that's kind of hard to find, I feel. And that comes down to an onboarding issue, which is minor in the grand scheme of things. But after that, I feel like most of the stuff in the ribbon works, and there's not too much to complain about there. Maybe I'm being a little bit generous on that. But, yet again, you go into all of these different UIs, whether it be the worn equipment UI or your inventory. Things just get too small. Like if you're in your worn equipment UI and you want to click on your tool belt, you got to hit that tool belt button right on the nose. Because if you don't, then you're not going to have a good time with that. So it just comes down to things that are being too small to click, which I understand that, but this is, the biggest criticism that I have of RS Mobile. And that's that RS RuneScape, as it is primarily a desktop game. I don't know if you feel the same way about that as I do. Is that, it's good to be able to, go do divination or go do woodcutting or something like that. But it still feels as though it's primarily a desktop-based game.
Yeah, well, see, it's hard for me because this is literally the first game I've ever been able to play mobile.
Yeah, because most of the time what you would expect is you'd expect the big buttons that you have on, the home screen and whatnot.
Right. But honestly, I have been impressed and kind of surprised that it's worked as well, and I was able to do the range of stuff that I was able to do. Like, granted, I didn't do bossing, but I mean, mainly because I think you could. I just think you have to set things up. My problem is, interfacing with that bank and everything. But if I set up for the task that I'm going to do on mobile, I can actually do it fairly well. You know what I mean? Like, I did a lot of Slayer on it and didn't have a problem with, any problem with that. So while the boxes definitely make it feel like the click boxes make it feel like a desktop game, I'm actually
You're actually
impressed.
Quite happy with it.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy.
All right. And, the only other area is the bank and, with all the small buttons at the top right. I don't know what the correct fix to that is. It just doesn't feel very mobile-like. But I'm not going to complain about the bank right now because, that's obvious. We are quite frankly lucky to have what we do with the bank. Improvements still could be made. Next thing I'd like to talk about is the world map. So...
Okay.
The world map, but it's something that many of us don't use because we've been around so long. But this is something a new player is going to interact with quite heavily on there. And I don't know what the answer is to this, but if you look on the left-hand side of the world map, there's all the little checkboxes of, whether or not certain icons are shown on the map. And these checkboxes are practically impossible to click, which make the map really not that usable on the mobile client unless you're, just trying to say, hey, I'm in Varrock and I want to set a marker for Falador. How do I get there? That kind of thing. That is, what I could see the world map being used for on mobile. But there's lots of issues I find with being able to actually toggle the actual icons on the world map, which, in itself is kind of a desktop issue too, because it's always a question of what's the right amount of icons to be showing and whatnot. And, should we actually be showing these icons to you at the same time? So I think that's something that could be fixed as well. Then, something I am really, really not pleased with in general is the buff and debuff bar. And I think that's mainly because the text is obscuring the icons of what they actually are. And you need to go there and you need to literally touch each of the icons to be able to see what they're all about. Now, I'm just going to say, and maybe it would be not wise to talk about this one until the next one arrives, and I think I'm actually going to wait to talk about this last one, which was the Grand Exchange, because, we're going to be getting some Grand Exchange changes in the month of June here, so I'm not actually going to talk about these ones here, but I think that, in general, the modal user interfaces, which include things like the Make X, the Grand Exchange, the Amulet of Glory teleport, amongst other things, could be adapted in such a way so that it doesn't completely black out the rest of your screen, maybe have some kind of blurring effect that it would show behind the scenes. And, if this is... And I want to just frame this in a very specific way, because most of what we've talked about over the last few minutes here is going to seem like it's, one huge complaint fest for RS Mobile, right? But in reality, if this is all we have to complain about, user interface refinements, and the rest of the game performs actually fine, that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, I would think that was pretty good.
Yeah. And... I don't know how many other people feel this way, but it just feels as though it's not a true iOS app when it doesn't follow those interface guidelines that I just previously talked about. And that's my main reason of, I don't want to say complaining, but just highlighting these again on the show, is because they're kind of something that, is a certain level of polish that is expected, and these are the first few things that I see when I open up the mobile client, and it's not to take away from what anyone has done or said over the years on it, and granted it's still an evolutionary product, but I think with these tiny fixes here and there for these user interfaces, we're going to be in a really good place for when it's time to actually, do the full commercial launch of this whenever they decide to.
Yeah, I think so.
And, with that, I'll just ask you, because, you use a screen magnifier, so you would know if you had any issues with any of the user interfaces. Are there any of the user interfaces that you have personally had issues with that you feel could be done better? Or do you have any questions about how to access certain things in the mobile client?
Well, see, I haven't trying to do stuff that I thought I wouldn't be able to read the interfaces in. So, here's an example of kind of where I'm at. When you're talking about the world map, I use it because the field of view is kind of small, and I can't really tell where I'm at sometimes. So I can pull up the world map and actually kind of tell where I'm at.
Oh, okay.
Without, you know what I mean? So the fact that I could do that, I never thought to look at the little, the toggle option type of stuff. I was just so thrilled that I could use that to help me get around, which was, and that's kind of my whole experience on mobile. The way it's been, it's the mere fact I've been able to do the things I've done have been really impressive to me.
Right, and that actually says a lot, is that from the accessibility standpoint, that it's actually usable for you. And for anybody who's listening for the first time, just tell them a bit about why you use the screen magnifier.
Oh, because so I'm legally blind. I have a genetic eye disease called Stargardt's. It affects my central vision mostly, so I don't really have hardly any central vision. Most of what I use is like peripheral, and I will use a magnifier to help make things bigger, and then I kind of got to move my eye around, because like I have like holes in that central part of my vision.
Right.
Yeah.
And the amazing part about this, as you have said in the past, is that RuneScape on a whole is one of the most accessible games that you've played.
It's how I started playing, yeah. Because games I thought I wanted to play, I couldn't. And
World of Warcraft.
Yeah, that's the one. And someone suggested this, and I never looked back.
And we're very pleased that you're able to play it. And there is nothing that I mentioned here today that I feel makes it so you can't play RuneScape. So I don't want, and I realize what many people do on the internet is that they have these videos and whatnot that they post, and they turn out to be, just for the purpose of complaining, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what this is. This is to show that this is already a sufficiently advanced product in terms of where it could go, and you might be able to get away with launching it right now, but there's just these few little things here and there that can, be done to take it out to a 5 out of 5. And hopefully they do that when it's time to launch. So that was the purpose of doing this showcase again, and kind of just showing some of the UI of where things are at. So
yeah, well, and I think it's good to see like the that there's some inconsistency, because that shows that some of them are good. Maybe it's like, you think it's like a legacy issue of like some of them were just made so long ago.
I think so. And there's just so many UIs in game, and they're all hand coded that it's impossible to get them all to degrade nicely for the mobile client.
Right.
So. And one thing I will say that we could talk about, and I don't know that we need to, that they know that they're working on, and they've said they're doing, is they actually plan on making the lobby more mobile friendly, because when you look at the lobby, sure, it works with a mouse and whatnot, but if you go to the world select screen, those little stars and boxes there to select what world you want to play on, they're just so tiny. So I imagine we'll be seeing something done with the lobby before the game launches, but that's why I didn't draw too much on that, because I actually know that they're looking at that. All right, should we move on? Or do you have anything else on mobile you want to bring up? Because I think I've talked about most of what I want to talk about with mobile.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wish I could be a little bit more helpful. I do. Another thing, there's one other thing. I don't know if this is really UI, but I do love the added markers, the outlining, the markers like where you touch. That's so helpful, knowing just where it registered the touch of your finger. You know what I mean? Like, so
proximity
those little things,
highlighting.
Yeah, that has been really, really great. Those are some of the like littler things that have actually contributed to me be able to do certain things in game that I wasn't sure I would be able to in the game. So.
Yeah, and one of the good things that came out last week with the Ninja fixes was the settings UI revamp. It actually makes settings UI a lot easier to navigate on mobile. So you know how much we love talking about that. That was my patch note of the year.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're gonna move on to questions in just a moment, but we're gonna do things a little bit differently here this week, and this might become the new norm on these no update weeks. We're actually going to talk a bit about what we've been up to on RS, because that kind of fits into the grand scheme of things of how we're currently playing. So, do you want to go first, or should I?
I mean, I can go, because
all right, go for it.
Haven't done a lot. I am now in that second. Well, I'm in that second part of the Warforge in archaeology. So I'm gathering my keys and I'm not exactly sure how many I need and all that. But I think I have everything I need, hopefully, besides just some more levels to get access to the other stuff to make my Incando. And on mobile, I've been doing Slayer and Div with my alt. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Lots of good money from divine
still...
charges there. And
and I made it to like 83, so I'm like, man, I know it's a slog to get 7 more levels, but dude, if I could harvest incandescent with my alt, that would be excellent.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And are you selling those, or are you?
Yeah, well, I mean, the great thing is, like, you have enough to provide for yourself, but I mean, you got a lot more than that too. So, like, you'd be surprised how much energy you can really produce in an hour or two.
Yeah, last I heard, 5 mil an hour for incandescent profit.
Yeah, and see, that's
and that's
awesome.
No risk.
You're laying in. Well, yeah, dude. I mean, seriously, like, I can lay in bed, listen to an audiobook, and play RS Mobile. Like, you know how much better Div is when you can lay down and listen to a book? Like,
yeah.
It's cool, man.
Yeah. I understand. All right. As for me, still working on archaeology, closing in on 95. The 94 spot I think is interesting. That one's in Warforge. And, this is actually the time where I have started to track my XP gained. Because what I'm trying to do is that, we have on our website, we have calculators and whatnot. And, I want to build the Archeology Calculator. Because you know what? The number one issue with every one that I have found so far is that it tells you how many artifacts to restore for a specific level, but it doesn't account the XP for gathering the artifacts, both in terms of excavating the artifact itself and the time you spend doing that. And, some of us like to go gather our own materials too. So if I'm going to go gather my own materials, maybe we can factor something like that in. So I've started a research spreadsheet on that to talk about this. And, anybody who is looking at it, you'll see that it is, quite frankly, in its infancy right now. It's only a few rows here in terms of the approach. But what I'm doing first off is I'm trying to do a baseline to see, and this is something that will hopefully form a segment in the future on the podcast. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see if there is some percentage of XP that you get from excavating artifacts. And, it can be an average across multiple levels. If it comes out to be 10%, 15%, 20%, 30%, something like that, we can factor that in and kind of make a guess as to where to go. I know there's one of the calculators out there that does that right now, but I'm not entirely sure on the research that was done by that. So I'm in effect doing my own research to see if that figure can be backed up and how that might have been done with it. And another aspect of this that I'm working on from this side is that we don't exactly know how precision works. All we know is that it's linear, such that if you double your precision of your matic, it will take you 50% of the time to excavate that same artifact. That's all we know about how it works right now. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out, we have our precision. How exactly does it when we strike the archaeology hotspot? How much progress is made with each strike, and how does that relate into precision? And then the idea behind that is that if we can use that to extrapolate how much durability or life points or hit points or whatever you want to call it each hotspot has, similar to how a mining rock has that, we can extrapolate that further and use that to guide how much XP you're going to get when you're doing your excavating of the artifacts. And this is, one of those little behind-the-scenes projects that we're currently working on right now. So by all means, if anybody has any ideas on this or anybody who wants to help with this, please do let us know. Or even if you have some kind of internal monologue maybe of how precision works, I'd be interested in having a chat with you. So that's what I'm looking at. And, for what it's worth, I already consulted with Brew Tennis, and, he said, yeah, that would be good to know exactly what you're trying to figure out, because that was the number one issue that he had when he was going for 200 mil archaeology, is that he didn't know exactly how much of the XP he was going to need and if he was going to overshoot based on the artifacts that he would have had to calculate. So that's why we're trying to solve this problem.
Oh, I understand. Well, that sounds a lot. That sounds more interesting. When you were talking about archaeology math before, I'm like, ugh. Like, eyes glaze over. You're like, oh no. But if you're like, that makes perfect sense. I forgot you're.
Yeah, and I mean,
working on a calculator and stuff. Yeah.
And if anybody does want to help, what we effectively need is a consistent baseline for a certain archaeology hotspot level. So, for example, if it's the level 94 archaeology hotspot, you have a Matic with precision 76, so that would be Elder Rune plus the 6 upgrade that you have on that. Don't use perks, so that means use Elder Rune, Bane, or whatnot, and then we calculate the total XP that you get between each artifact, and we can average that over a certain number of iterations. That would help greatly. So if anybody out there wants to help with that, I'll send you a copy of the spreadsheet, and you can kind of start working on that based on that. And we'll have a chat, and just join the Discord, rsbnb.com/Discord, if you want to do that as well. So that's part one of what I've been doing. Part two is that I have finally unlocked all of the Livid Farm spells through the Livid plant.
Oh, woo! Nice.
Have you done that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The next Livid plant will be in on June 8th.
June 8th. Okay, I'll be there.
You can also get some from the medium farming reputation thing as well. So, but This was a long time coming. So it was nice to do this. I absolutely hate that minigame.
Oh, that's one of the things that's nearly impossible. Nearly impossible. I hate Livid Farm.
Yeah, so I've actually started using the Livid Farm teleports now for the herb run. So that's nice. 'Cause previously, I used the Trollheim one that ran. Then I also just used the Catherby Lodestone to get to that one, and all the other ones have direct teleports to them. So if you split that apart, you can use the Catherby teleport and Trollheim teleport, and you're good to go. So that's what I've been up to in RS. But before we move on to our listener questions, we'll just thank our Patreon supporters for this episode. We have a couple more since it's the start of the month. We also have a couple new arrivals as well this week. So starting off this week, I'd like to thank 29 Let's Go, Brock H, Cameron, Cass, CGB 900, Christian S, Diana, Jade Gizmo, JW, James W, Jason S, Jim M, Joe M, John P, Jelly, Kevin G, Kyle, Mr. Ling, new arrival, welcome, Nora, Our Memories, Ricky A, Rastafa, Rippeth, Steve D, our second new arrival, thank you for subscribing, The Naked Captain, The Lion, Tom V, Zachary K, and Zez, thank you all of you for your support. It truly does mean the world to us, and in case you're wondering what we're talking about right now, this is our Patreon page, which you can find at patreon.com/RSBNB, where we provide some little extras to those who subscribe to us and want to help fund the costs of hosting and production of RSBANDB Update. So for as little as $1 a month, you get early access to the show notes. You also help us fund those costs that I was talking about, and you get a mention in the show notes. For $3 a month, you'll get a special VIP rank on Discord, mention on the podcast at the start of the month, and access to high-quality stereo AAC versions of the show. And then, of course, for $5 a month, you can get a shout out each and every week on the show, exclusive access that we use to you get outtakes. You get exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. I got a bit like ahead of myself. Yeah, that could definitely be one of them. And of course, you gain everything else from all the previous tiers. And in case you're wondering what we're doing with this, we have our monthly bit, which is a special monthly show that we do, and this one is going to be a special one, which should be coming out next week, I believe. Fingers crossed. This one is called, well, I won't say what it's called yet. It's definitely something to do with 15 years of RSBANDB Update. Then, of course, we also have our round table, which we do around the middle of the month. Patreon members, just pay attention to the Patreon feed to find out when that'll be. That's a talk about anything and everything RuneScape related. Last month's turned into a design session on a skilling boss. Then, of course, Inside RSBANDB Update, which is a effectively RSBANDB Update dev blog. And once again, this one will be anniversary themed. Then we also have movie night in the Discord, where we watch some of our favorite movies. Past months was Austin Powers, the second one. Prior to that, we had a Star Wars one. And then before that, we had Star Trek. So this will be the fourth movie night. I think we'll do this one by poll again. We had good results from that poll. So.
Oh, are we? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good.
All this and more at patreon.com/RSBANDB. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So we got some discussion questions this week. First one from Mr. Ling. He says he has 2 questions this week, and he thought of this while doing divination, but what if archaeology had a time absorption like Chronicles have? So, those little orange things that come out of the divination rift. As a way of boosting XP, or, maybe in terms of archaeology, they would give material or something, right?
Like the fragments?
The chronicle fragments that you take to offer to get at the Gothic Shrine. Or you can just offer up if you have the perk from the Gothic's Memories event.
Maybe it could be like a perfect fragment or something, and then it would make up a restored artifact.
Ooh.
Put them all together.
Ooh. So so they'd have to be rare enough that you need to get maybe 10 of them or so, and then you could get the XP for a restored artifact.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be interesting. I think I like that than better getting some kind of material dump, to be honest. Because that's a little bit more dynamic. And it can be level agnostic. So if you start gathering at level 83, but you don't finish until level 85, you get the XP of a level 85.
Yeah.
That's actually a really fun idea. My only concern is that it might be a little bit confusing with the time sprites.
That's true.
How did you wind up finding time sprites anyways after we told you what they looked like? Are you easily able to follow them around?
Yeah, I've been able to follow them a little bit better. I've just zoomed in and you guys zoom in and turn the camera. The click boxes helped to be able to get around easier, and then I used I use an audio cue when it switches, and that helps me know okay, it moved, and then all I have to do is kind of find,
look around the site
which one
and find
looks different. Yeah.
All right.
It's still hard when there's familiars out and porters going off look very similar. I wish they didn't look quite so similar. Yeah. But that's how I've been doing it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to give that one to you. That I like your idea of getting the XP of a completed artifact by kind of just maybe unearthing some extra knowledge, and then they complete somehow. I don't know what the lore reason on that would be, but that'd be a fun little addition that they could add maybe on there. Mm-hmm. Or another idea, what you could do with them is you could just gather them over time, and then they could be the currency that you can use to do a weekly archaeology D&D. And then Ooh, here's an
that'd
idea.
be cool.
Here's an idea. Because, another thing that JD said on social media recently is that they're not actually working on the Orphan Dig site currently. So, what if instead they just did an archaeology-based minigame? Or, sorry, not a minigame, a D&D.
So,
That was set on Anachronia.
I think that is a really interesting idea. It would all come down to its balancing, though, right? Because we wouldn't want a cash situation where
you feel you have to do it,
and it's the cheapest and most effective. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, you wouldn't want that.
So it'd have to be balanced just right. But yeah, it would be cool if you were saving up the currency to buy your way.
Or maybe that's a crappy idea because adding more D&Ds is what no one likes.
Well, some are okay. That's the problem. For them to be good, they have to be good. but you want it so good that it becomes like a necessity of training. Like that's the dilemma there.
Yeah, and this skill is so new and. It needs to mature to a point that we don't even know what it needs. So,
well, that's for sure. Well, yeah, because right now I'm thinking, can't say it needs a whole lot. I've been really
right.
I'm still thrilled with it.
Yeah. And that's why I'm at the point now where I feel like okay, it's time to start gathering some XP. Oh, is this really going to be Is this really going to be a thing where I have to build our own calculator for this? And sure, people want that, but it's a slog to do, and that's precisely why at this point I'm doing it. It's because I feel like we know enough about archaeology that these are really the only few unanswered questions mechanically for it. So,
yeah, well, it was we just dove in and we've devoured archaeology because. It has, it is so good. There's so much meat on that bone we could chew on.
2 months this week.
Wow.
Yeah. Doesn't feel that long.
No, not really.
No. The second question from Mr. Ling is if agility went to 120, would you think rooftops would be the way to do it like old school did?
That... That, in my opinion, would just be one little piece. I think agility needs a rework, and that is like an extension.
Yeah, it definitely needs a rework. I happen to know that this is something Sirion is looking at, how you would rework the agility skill for an Informer article, so watch that space at informer.rsbnb.com on that. I'm just reading up on rooftop agility here right now because I know this is something that people definitely wanted in RS3, but it never actually arrived and it just went to old school.
Well, I guess you have it with the Quest, or does that counts as an agility deal, right? The Alcarid rooftop agility?
Yeah, it does. They have agility, rooftop agility courses every 10 levels in old school. They have them in, and this is going to be levels going up by 10, starting at 10. They have them in Draenor, Alcarid, Varrock, Canifis, Falador, Sears, Polnivnich, Relica, and Ardoyan. And
yeah, it's just more courses, though. I think we need a rework.
A rework and a fundamental rethink of how the skill works.
Yeah, and I don't know.
And the question comes up is, do you want it to influence with red energy?
There are so many things that have made run energy not really a concern
Right, and of course, one of them being one of the relics where it just gives you infinite run energy.
Right. So I feel like it almost has to interface with it, or else then those rewards become dead content, and then, you know what I mean? Like, it's like pulling one little thread, and now
the entire thing comes unraveled.
Yeah. I don't know.
I do have an answer on this, and I don't want to preempt Sirion in terms of what he's going to do. I have a theory that some of his stuff that he's going to be doing on this is going to touch on making it interact with other skills.
Okay. Well, when we were talking about the rooftop agility, it made me think of that should somehow work with thieving, right? Like, that's what you think. You think agility, thieving, kind of thing. But that's the idea of a true like support skill, and can you do that without touching all of the other skills that it would be supporting? Or would it just be a matter of being real careful with what was being introduced to those skills and the balance of it?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that we talked about last year, do you remember monthly bit number 9? The next skill?
No.
We suggested 4 skills of our own, and one of them was the scoundrel skill that had to tie in with agility.
Oh, yes, I think I do now. Okay. So
that's one way that you could go with it, make it kind of interact with other skills in game. And, I think the most obvious one, if we were looking at doing that, would probably be ranged.
Okay. I guess that would make sense.
Because, the more agile you are, the faster you can reload your bow or your crossbow. Right?
Yeah.
So that's one.
Well, and we do have that weird intersection of the attuned crystal weapons and agility affecting it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, I think there could have been more done in that direction.
Yeah.
With combat stuff and agility.
Because right now agility is run energy and shortcuts, which is big whoop-de-doo, right?
Right now, agility is just a boring grind that you have to deal with. Or pay for.
With the Silverhawk boots.
Yeah.
Which, it's good that they made it so you can craft your own Silverhawk down now, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And and it's still, it still takes forever. It's just that you don't have to do those, agility courses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perf made it better, but it's still,
What about Anachronia agility?
It wasn't for me.
No,
it wasn't for me. Like the XP, the additional XP. I couldn't get what the additional XP should have been because of how slow and how hard it was for me to find my points. Whereas at the Heffen, it's literally just a camera slide, and it's a lot easier to kind of. I can do the laps quicker. If that makes sense.
Another thing you could tie in agility to is thieving, more so than it is right now.
Yeah, that could have been. You could probably, and you can tie it in with safe cracking, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Pickpocketing,
but
it already kind of does with that.
But see that, and the problem is that you're still pigeonholing it into only a number of skills.
Yes.
And it's like, why? Right?
Well, but agility wouldn't affect everything. Right?
No, it doesn't have to affect everything. It just seems very arbitrary. And
I don't know. I think there's a rhyme and reason between the things that we've suggested.
Oh, yeah, there definitely is. I'm just saying that as a skill right now, it just feels like it's just there. And I hate to say this, if you pulled it from the game, you really wouldn't miss it.
No, absolutely not.
And, you know, I think the rooftop courses can definitely be one aspect of it. Post 99, to have that as a training method. But I think there just needs to be a reimagining of it, too. Which I don't know what that would be, but yeah. And that's precisely why I wanted to talk about this question, is because we need to kind of have this discussion, because it's just here otherwise. And okay, I mean, let's avoid some traps. Let's get some extra fish. Let's get some extra loot from hunt or thieving. Let's do a shortcut. Like the way I frame it is that I say, if I was showing someone RS, how would I explain agility to them? It makes you run longer, and you can use some shortcuts.
You know, if it wasn't for all of the rewards that ties into agility, I hate to say it, I think you really could get rid of it.
Yeah.
You probably axe it.
But, I mean, we're saying this, but at the same time, apparently there's 1,676 people with 200 million XP in it. And 139,000 with 99. So you can't just, pull the rug out from under them.
Well, that's true.
So when we say remove it, we don't necessarily mean remove it. We just say that it wouldn't be missed. So.
Yeah.
But I don't have any real answers to this one, aside from maybe tying it in harder with other skills, maybe a bit on the side of combat, or maybe even attack. I don't know. But that's the direction I'd go with it, is add more tie-ins to other skills. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ling. Next one from Trekkie, God War 3. Zaros has united his old factions and has begun a campaign to take over Gielinor. And you're assuming, Trekkie, that the Elder Gods will let him do this. He says you must choose 5 NPCs to be part of your surgical strike team to cut off the head of the snake. Who do you choose? And boom, one of the 5 NPCs you picked was a double agent, and now you must kill him or her. Who is it?
Oh, shit. Okay. We have to come up with 5?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have yours?
No, hold on. I got one.
All right. And these are any NPCs on RuneScape, by the way. So I'm gonna actually start off with this, and the first one I'm gonna say is the Wise Old Man.
Okay.
Because he seems to have all these weird powers. The second one is Sliske, which I think we know he's not dead. He's kind of just sitting as a shadow inside the player character.
Okay.
The third one is Auguste, RuneScape's version of Captain Picard.
Oh, okay.
And the fourth one, I don't know. And, I feel like we probably need someone here who can act as a bit of a force on that. I don't know who my fourth one will be. I know who my fourth one will be. It'll be Meg from the Player on Ports.
Oh, Jesus.
And my fifth one, I don't know who my fifth one will be. Anyways, what's your team starting to look like?
Saren.
Okay.
Saradomin.
Okay.
Xanic.
Ooh.
The Moravan.
All right, from the dig site.
And Venescula.
Ooh. You're going with a very archaeology-themed based crew here.
Oh, am I? Like, I didn't really...
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
4 of them that you've mentioned so far have been dig site masters.
Oh, jeez. I didn't even...
The only one you're missing is the bird guy from Stormguard.
I almost said Armadale, but
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So,
That's
okay.
funny.
That's interesting you did that. They must
that must be subliminally.
All right. And I guess my 5th one would probably have to be, and I know who I want it to be. I'm just trying to make sure that this isn't a lore problem with this. Yeah. I don't know how he would feel about this, but Ichlarin.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Good.
Because we were kind of left hanging after the Menaphos quest ended, mind you. And, I hate to say that, but we were kind of left hanging after that quest line.
Okay.
So, and as for the one that would die and be the double agent, it's the whole reason I put her on the team. She consistently annoyed me and play her own ports, is Meg.
Damn it, Meg.
And anybody who's talked to me will know that this has been one character that, forever just annoyed the crap out of me. So that's my list. And I realize we might have some potential issues with Sliske and Ichlarin being on the same team, but I don't think any of the other ones will pose any problem here for that. So, and, this all is, of course, if the Elder Gods let us do this. So this is a fun little question. So thank you for that, Trekkie. All right. If you guys want to send your own questions in, you can email them to questions@rsbnb.com, or you can leave them on Twitter @RSBNB, or post them on the forums at update.rsbnb.com/ask. All right. So let's move on to tech news this week. You familiar with the game Kerbal Space Program?
Yes, I am.
They're working.
Fun game.
Yeah, they've been working on something called the Kerbal Space Program 2, but they ran into some problems with the studio and publisher relationship. So 3 months after losing a deal with Take-Two, Star Theory Games was ultimately out of business. And these are the 2 game designers that were working on this. So last December, it turns out that employees of Star Theory Games, which are the ones who make Kerbal Space Program, received a recruitment message on LinkedIn. And it was a very bizarre message because it came from an executive producer at the publishing company which was funding their next game, Kerbal Space Program 2. And it said the game, which was previously in works for the last 2 years, was being pulled from their studio. So what happened is that this publisher decided to try to pull the rug under from Star Theory Games and poach the development team so that they could push forward on a different deal than the one that had fallen through, because Star Theory Games didn't like the deal that they got with their publisher on this, which was, or rather the publisher was Take-Two Interactive. So Star Theory Games didn't like the deal that they had, so they said, no, we're not doing that. So as a result of that, Take-Two said, okay, we're going to poach your employees and build your game anyways. And this was, when you look at this is kind of dumb for what happened with this, because you have these game developers who make one of the most popular video games out there when it comes to space exploration, because you can literally build a rocket with this and go to the moon. And, these developers just get treated like utter trash with this. And
Take-Two has a history of doing shady
exactly
things like this.
Exactly. And, this was the studio's only source of revenue at the time. And without this contract, Star Theory would have been in serious trouble. Now, Take-Two said that they were going to set up a new studio to keep working on this game, but they wanted to keep the dev staff. And, they even made them offers including cash sign-in bonuses, higher salaries, and more benefits to them. And because of this, the two founders of Star Theory, Bob Jerry and Jonathan Maver, basically held a meeting together and decided what was going to be done with this going forward. And they encouraged the employees to stick together and stay at their company. And they said the next few weeks were chaos because Take-Two had actually managed to hire more than a third of Star Theory's staff, including the studio head and creative director. Now, then in March we had, of course, the coronavirus, which basically torpedoed this entire business of what was going to be happening, and Star Theory shut its doors.
Yeah.
So there we have it. This is what happens in these indie game developments, and indie game development industries, and we talked how they can be how the publishers can be pirates at some point. And this is exactly this.
And what's the recourse that, people's going to have? Like, what, they're going to review
It was a corporate takeover, right?
Yeah, and then you end up getting, a good game gets review bombed. Like, that sucks.
Yeah. And Take-Two, and they also say the company behind the Grand Theft Auto franchise is one of the largest publishers with a market value of $15 billion. Their stock is up 10%, trading at an all-time high, thanks to, of course, the increased demand from people staying at home. So Take-Two comes out ahead of this on this. And the Kerbal Space Program team has, effectively fizzled and died because of this. And we really didn't hear about this because, in these few months when these things were going, it's kind of hard to report on what's happening with this. But Kerbal Space Program 2 is something that people were looking forward to for a long time. And, there was this guy, Brian Roundy, who is the spokesperson for Private Division, not Pirate, said the company contacted every member of the development team at Star Theory with an invitation to join this new studio called Intercept Games. More than half of the team is now at Intercept, and in doing so, what they want to do is empower this passionate and talented group to focus on quality and continue the progress that they're making on this game. So somebody did come through at the end of the day and offer them a line to save them. And, this is just, the usual
hope it wasn't too little too late.
Yeah, the scummy nature of these video game publishers, as we've talked about many times before on the podcast. So, and, this is why, if you're a fan of these indie games, as it was Kerbal Space Program back in the day, you should absolutely support the developers and do that in any way possible, because when you see this kind of thing happening and you know that this money is going to be hopefully going directly to them, we've talked about before, and it just comes down to being able to support indie game developers when they need it the most. So, rather unfortunate story, and we'll have to see how this impacts the release cycle on this game, because this is one that I was definitely looking forward to. Were you gonna pick it up? KSP 2?
I probably would have. I like the first one.
Yeah, we'll have to see who's publishing it. Hey,
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. Kerbal Space Program 2. I know Steam lists its release as 2020. Okay, it is private division. So, definitely when it arrives, pick it up and support the actual developers here for this, because it's something that they deserve after the crap that they went through, quite honestly.
Yeah. Don't get the 2K knockoff, or Take-Two knockoff. Geez, not 2K.
Yeah.
Take-Two.
All right. And, same thing goes, if you look on Steam, Kerbal Space Program right now is listed as the publisher private division. So they did move everything over, and Take-Two wasn't successful in what they did. So that's good.
Good.
But there's lots of turmoil and lots of scumminess going on. Speaking of space, did you watch the Crew Dragon launch last Saturday?
I didn't get to see it live, but I was so excited to see them going into the station to see little clips of that. So it was so nice to have Americans up there again. On our own ride, we finally got our car fixed. We're good to go.
So a bit of history on this. The International Space Station is crewed by an international crew, and it's rotated out about every 3 months or so. And since 2011, the only way to get up there has been to go with the Russians on one of their Soyuz rockets, which is ancient technology, but it works. And this is because in 2011, the space shuttle program was canceled, and that was the previous American launch system to get astronauts up to the International Space Station. And, that's a long time, 2011 to 2020. It finally happened. There was a rocket launch from the famous Cape Canaveral in Florida, Launch Pad 39A, which, if you go back in history, that's where all the Apollo missions and whatnot launched from. SpaceX launched one of their Falcon 9 rockets with the Crew Dragon capsule on top and headed towards the International Space Station. Took off in success. Took 19 hours once they reached orbit to catch up with the space station. Then they docked, and so far it's looking like it's going to be a very, very successful mission on this.
Yeah.
I'd
probably be asking for an extension myself.
Yeah. They're going to be up there for 210 days, so about 6 months, the Dragon will. Then it'll come back. And with that, one of the most interesting...
And it returns. Right?
Yes. One of the most interesting things about this is that the booster rockets for the Falcon 9, actually falls back to Earth and lands upright on a barge in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. The reusable rockets. That's cool. And you know what was so, did you see the inside of the cockpit where how minimal it is?
Yeah.
It's there's a few buttons, but it's all screens. It's I don't know. It was cool, man.
Yeah, I had to look that up after I saw that. And it turns out that these capsules, the Dragon capsule, runs on 3 dual-core x86 processors, so the same kind of processors that run our desktop computers. 3 computers, and then it sends instructions to microcontrollers that control the actual spacecraft. Those are run on PowerPC-based chips, but the front end that the astronauts control is reportedly written in a user interface using the Chromium project, which is the same thing that runs the Chrome web browser, combined with JavaScript.
Oh no, not Java, is it?
Yeah, so apparently the front-end user interface for this new spacecraft is written in JavaScript.
Isn't that that's old, right? That's old.
No, you can make it really easy to write in with various compiled languages like TypeScript and a couple of other ones out there, and I'd imagine they're using their own proprietary systems for this. But this entire spacecraft is actually powered by Linux as well.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's actually really interesting because if you look at both the mission control and the actual inside of the spacecraft, this is the first modern spacecraft that's gone up. Because if you look at Soyuz, it's all mechanical controls. If you looked at the shuttle, that one was a little bit more modern, but still lots of mechanical controls to it. This is, the most modern space vehicle that has ever launched. And it actually was 10 years ago that they first started tests of the Falcon 9 rocket system, and over the span of these 10 years refined the rocket and then eventually the capsule to the point where this test flight was carried out. They only took 2 crew members up. The standard NASA complement on these capsules will be 4. It can seat up to 7 at the most, and these will actually be the same vehicles that SpaceX uses to send tourists into space, believe it or not. So all in all, yes, it is, the return of launching an American rocket from American soil, but it is also a huge boost for SpaceX to show that this can be done and really paves the way for the moon and beyond. So a very important thing happened last Saturday. And like you said, I imagine those guys who left up there, let's extend that for a little bit longer than 6 months, eh?
Yeah, it's only a matter of time now till we're going to end up with like a hotel up there or something, man. you watched.
Yeah, because that's what they want to do. They have the space station. They also want to have a base on the moon, but they also want to have another space station that orbits the moon. And they want to have that crewed all the time, all of these things. So, pretty neat stuff. We're going to come back to Earth now for the last tech news of the week, and this one is that Epic Games plans on launching an Epic Game Store on iOS and Android. And this is what Epic CEO Tim Sweeney said. And I just want to turn everyone's page back a bit to the point where Steam said they were going to do the same thing. And Steam said, no, you can't have a store, or Apple said you can't have a store to Steam because you have the iOS App Store, which is supposed to be the main store that is going to provide games for iOS. So it'll be interesting to see how exactly Epic reacts to this and to see what kind of fit Tim Sweeney throws, because, he's world famous for doing that kind of thing. But Epic is everywhere. And we'll have to wait and see how they do this and how it interacts with Apple's Apple Arcade service and whatnot. But,
well, I mean, Apple can't really... I mean, it's not like they can really compete or anything. It's just a matter of, are they getting their pound of flesh out of Epic?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it amounts to, right?
Yeah. Because, there is no competing on the iOS App Store for this because, you can only have one App Store on iOS, and that's just the way Apple designed it. They'd likely have more luck on Android, but remains to be seen, how much of a hit this will actually be. So.
I mean, I don't know, man. Being able to play your game, I don't know. It might be popular.
Yeah, we'll see. There's also the continuing streak of free games. This time it's Total War Saga, available on the Epic Game Store.
It's when it comes out.
Yeah, for free.
Yeah, that's let me see. I think it was August.
And with this is another interesting thing, and they're just getting people to install them on here, right? Or install.
I mean, I guess, but I definitely take advantage of. I mean, they give away legitimate, decent games. I've definitely taken advantage of them.
Yeah, and if you claim it in the first 24 hours, it'll be completely free.
Yeah.
On the
that's
Epic
added
Game
to my
Store.
wish list.
And and when is this one coming out? Total War Saga Troy.
August, I think, is what it said.
And, is that the way to do it? I guess if you claim a game in the first 24 hours, it's free?
We'll see. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. They got the money to experiment, so if I can take advantage of it, I will.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Let's move on to some other things and wrap up the show. Just a brief reminder that if you want to sign up for the Agility Skill of the Month, you can do that. Our ranged one has just started. We don't have any details on that, but if you want to sign up for Agility, just head over to rsbnb.com/skotm. And I realize we just talked about Agility and put it down as a skill, but this is a skill of the month. This starts on June 15th if you want to get some Silverhawk Boot XP.
Yeah, get your feathers. Get your down.
Yeah. All right. What do we got for achievements?
All right. So we have a few. We've got Arendelle 120 with 99 mining on June 3rd. We have Lanikia with 99 invention on June 3rd. We have Lexi 10 with 99 smithing on June 3rd. Hemsky with 99 agility on June 2nd. Hemsky with 99 fire making on June 2nd. Hemsky, again, because it's on a roll, got 99 farming. Yeah, on June 2nd. Then we had Ishk with 99 archaeology on June 1st. And then Arendelle with 120, or Arendelle 120 with 99 defense on May 31st. And Omega with 120 archaeology on May 31st.
Nicely done. Then we have Lady Claw with 99 archaeology on the 30th. Pony Picker with 120 Slayer also on the 30th. Then on the 29th, we had Canis Rufus with 99 archaeology. Spartacus with 99 prayer. Suits with 99 herblore. Then on the 28th, we had Lanikia with 99 runecrafting, Lexi 10 with 99 mining, and Madhouse SC with 99 firemaking. Nicely done, everyone.
Good deal. Good deal.
I believe you have a pick of the week for us, and I don't know if I'm gonna get us copyrighted if I play any of this. So you tell us what it is, then I'll make that decision.
Okay, so we need something. I thought we needed something fun, something happy, and do you remember what used to make you happy when you're a kid? You remember reading? Did you read Dr. Seuss, Shane, or did someone read Dr. Seuss to you?
Early on, sure, but that's not what made me happy.
Okay, well, I like them books. It made me happy.
All right.
And I also grew up in the '90s, so I got a special place in my heart for Dr. Dre and gangster rap. And it turns out that you can totally read a Dr. Seuss book in time and according to Dr. Dre beats. And that's what my man here, Wes Tank, does. And so he has all kinds of Dr. Seuss songs that he raps to Dr. Dre beats. So the one that I picked out for today is Fox and Socks, and it is rapped to the beat of What's the Difference Between Me and You. And I'm telling you, it's fun. It's just fun. Oh, and here's the fun part. So as a father, right, I can't listen to well, this is going to be so weird when we're really old because we're listening to gangster rap. But I can't because if my daughter's around and stuff, right? I totally can now. I pop this on this Dr. Seuss, right? She's just, all she hears is Fox and Socks. And I'm like, yeah, what's the difference between me and you?
Well, let's give it a bit of a brief
stuff.
listen here and see what happens.
Now we come to the ticks and talks, sir. Try to say this one, Mr. Knox, sir. Clocks on Fox tick, clocks on Knox talk. Sick breaks tick, sick chicks talk. Please, sir, I don't like this trick, sir. My tongue isn't quick or slick, sir. I get all of those ticks and clocks, sir, mixed up with the chicks and talks, sir. I can't do it, Mr. Fox, sir. I'm so sorry, Mr. Knox, sir.
That's actually not too bad.
Yes. I love it. It's just lighthearted and fun. Like I said, the guy's name is West Tank. It looks like these started coming out during, quarantine times. And, boy, I never thought I would say that seemed like a simpler freaking time, but that seemed like a simpler time. So, yeah, forget about it and listen to some...
Well, you went from, like you said, you went from coffee time and wine time to I don't know what it is this week. I don't know if I'll repeat some of the stuff you told me about what you said you were up to or what Siri thought you were up to this week.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, gosh.
Actually, I could say this because this is funny. This guy sends me a text message today as we're talking about what we're going to do on the show. And you use dictation because of the accessibility stuff we talked about earlier. And I get this message from you that says, and I burst out laughing when I heard this. And Tana says to me, "But I really did loot a Best Buy and broke windows at the courthouse."
So yeah, oh Jesus, that was in reference to that happened in my town. Because I was telling Shane, like, this isn't a big, this is a small 150K tops. Like 150K, that's like 2 towns and a university together, right?
Right.
Small, but we had some stuff going here with, and it turned out to be 2 different groups, but at the same time, opportunists, people did loot a Best Buy and broke windows at the courthouse. I said they, and Siri thought that would be a lot funnier if she changed it to I and put me on a list. So that's fun. I'm like, oh no. And which is funny because like I'm the guy that like I'm very supportive of the cause, but I wouldn't. I'm a home person. I'm still scared of Corona. Like I don't want to get sick. Like I'd be like, I'd love to join your social movement, but I really don't want to get sick right now. There's still a pandemic.
Alrighty, well, that's pretty much it for this episode of RSBANDB Update. Shared a little story on that front. If you guys want full show notes, once again, at update.rsbnb.com. If you want to subscribe to the podcast on any number of podcast listeners out there, update.rsbnb.com/subscribe. We got Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, YouTube, practically anything under the sun. Update.rsbnb.com/subscribe. Subscribe. It's good. It makes it so that the podcast is automatically delivered to you if you forget. And it's also good because if you rate our podcast on these subscription services, it definitely helps us with discovery. So please do that. And if you want to join us in game, you can come sit in our friends chat, which is BitsBytes. And of course, we also have a Discord where we record the podcast. Not many people know this, but we just let people come in and you can listen to it right as we're recording at rsbnb.com/Discord. So with that being said, we'll be back next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. And next week, it's Stormguard Citadel Lore Week.
Ooh.
That's going to be a fun one.
Can't wait.
So Diana will be back for that, and we'll have all the goodies on Stormguard. So with that being said, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Take care, everyone.
See ya.